Everybody ready? I can't talk through that. I'm going to call the Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting for September 22nd, 2020 to order. Can we please all stand for the invocation from Mr. Black?
Heavenly Father, as we come here tonight, we ask you to guide us with your knowledge and your compassion. In this name, in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Opening board comments, Mr. Forehand.
None at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Yeah, just a couple, Mr. Chairman. The first thing is I was wondering if there was a possibility in the next few months before we, sorry, my glasses are fogging up, before Christmas time or something, we could actually set up a work session discussing going forward with the internet in this county, what our plans are. If that's a possibility some point in the next couple of months. Okay. As far as just talking about how much money we want to put in, and I just got a message here about 5 minutes ago from one of my constituents that they're trying to have a business meeting on Anderson Mill Road, and they sent me a picture. They have no service, and so they can't have the business meeting. So it's getting increasingly frustrating for the rural residents. So just kind of, if we could just get together and just kind of discuss a kind of strategy, because I know it's not just my district. I know it's all the districts have rural residents that are deeply affected by the lack of the internet service. The next thing is the Moose International. I don't know if all the other supervisors got an invitation. Moose International, the Moose Lodge, I think that's in your district, Mr. Underwood. The Moose Lodge is having the president of Moose International is coming on October 1st at 7 p.m. So this is a big event for them. So I got an invitation, and I think they were trying to send invitations out to all the other supervisors. So this is a huge event. I think they would like as many supervisors there as possible. Another thing, and it's perfect timing, we got a letter. I think Mr. Seeley got the letter, and I got emails from constituents. Aqua America, which is now, I guess, called Essential Utilities, is asking for another rate increase. I think it's about 8% this time. I would like, if Mr. Cully, if you could if we could get that on the agenda as far as what it means for the county. I'm still in the process of, I was looking at it last night very late, so I just would like to see what it means for Caroline. I think it's about an 8% increase. And I'd just like to have a comparison, Mr. Cully, of what our public utilities pay someone in the proposed rates on our public utilities compared to what a customer in like Lake Heritage pays for water and sewer. So just kind of have that discussion. And then finally, and I do want to point out, and actually just kind of point out to this board, I was watching, because everyone pretty much knows I'm a school teacher in Spotsylvania, and as a teacher up there, I was watching their school board meeting, I guess it was last week, about what their plan was for moving forward with whether we're going to stay virtual, which we are right now in Spotsylvania, or go to hybrid. And one of the things that was very interesting is there was a member of their school board up there, Ms. Shelley, who gave huge props to the Caroline County Board of Supervisors. So it's nice to see for giving CARES money, 18% or 19% of our CARES money went to the school system. So the Board of Supervisors here got huge props from the school board in Spotsylvania for allotting CARES money to the school system. So that's just something that I would like to point out. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Underwood?
No comments, Mr. Chairman, at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mrs. Long?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that the last night I attended, along with Mr. Black, via computer, the GWRC meeting, and that I stayed on for the VAMPO meeting. Tomorrow I will be at the Tidewater Basin Committee meeting if anybody has anything they need me to bring up there. And then on October the 9th is the virtual AP Hill committee, executive steering committee. If anybody has any topics, please get them to me before those dates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two brief ones. One, as you know, at our last board meeting, we approved a festival, which is a thank you to all the essential workers. That is this Saturday, 1 o'clock at the Timbers, and all the board members have been invited. The other is I would like us to place on the agenda for our next meeting a funding discussion for Germanna Community College, which is located here in Belmont. For those of you who don't know, when it was originally brought to the county, we had a 4-year agreement, what I thought was a 5-year agreement, but it was only 4, so we need to discuss ways to help support them to keep them here. So if we could place that on the agenda, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Colley. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have spent a great deal of time working on broadband and on the phone, so hopefully Mr. Black, Mr. Underwood, Mr. Forehand, we can make some forward progress. There's a tremendous need, not just here, but I think there's a hue and cry across the state. The lower, very lower part of my district and the far eastern part of my district is also without, and most without cell phone coverage, so I know that's a challenge for all of us, but it is something I have a good bit of time in, so hopefully by meeting time, if you give us some time, Mr. Black, we can actually talk some real numbers and situations. That's all I have.
Mr. Sibley, do you want to, on that note, mention the discussion we had last Monday?
Oh,
with,
we did have, the name of the company was Wind.
Windstar?
Wind.
That's not it.
Windship.
Thank you.
Which is a last mile provider who is starting in.
They're in King William.
They're working in King William to deploy their first output of their product. We're anxiously waiting to see how that actually lays flat for them. They figure they're going to be at least another 6 weeks. We spent a good hour and a half on the phone with the president and one of their investors to talk about their deployment, because the last mile, as everybody knows, is the most difficult piece to crack. Just because there's fiber across the front of your yard doesn't mean that you have any access to it. Unless, of course, you're digging and you dig it up, which is a huge mess. I will warn anybody that doing that can be very expensive. But the technology committee is looking at, we're looking at everybody we can to see who's got the last mile solution and a way to actually implement that last mile around the county, because that is probably going to be one of our only ways currently in a lot of places is the wireless option. And we talked about, we actually had this company look at trees at 90 feet and below, because at 150 feet, if you fly a drone and you look at an angle, you won't see many rooftops, even though they're there because of the trees. And tree leaves and pine needles make great antennas for those short frequencies that we use for internet and cell phone coverage. Excuse me. So they're doing a map for us, and they're looking at places. We're looking at places we can actually prototype this, and have actually looked at around the Dawn, Route 30, Route 301 area as a potential prototype place.
And it's fixed wireless. So it's a wireless signal that attaches to a cable and it broadcasts. So it's something that may work for us in our really rural areas.
Okay.
Because you do need some backhaul capability, whether it be fiber or you can use microwave. It's really expensive and it's a heavy antenna.
Have we heard, do we know, because we had the gentleman here from REC, do we know when they're making their decision?
October sometime, so in the next month.
Okay.
So
All right.
it'll probably be November before we know.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
All right, thank you.
With that, amendments to the agenda, and I believe Mr. Cully has one.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, legal has asked for a closed session. I think Pam has passed around motion that Ben has drafted for that matter. It's a legal matter. And we've got an extra lawyer on, so we would like to do that at the front side of the meeting, please.
Would you read that, Mr. Vice Chairman, and put us into closed meeting? Let me first amend the agenda. Is there any other amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda with one under presentation reports for a legal session,
So
right up
moved.
front.
So moved.
I have a motion to second. Any further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff exemption section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia to discuss specific legal matters related to litigation filed against the Office of the Commissioner of Revenue by the Department of Justice relating to a complaint filed by a former employee whose employment was terminated by Mrs. Carter while she served as the previous commissioner. That's it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion to second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are gonna convene in closed session. This shouldn't take very long, so hopefully we'll be back in 15 or 20 minutes. So we will return as soon as closed session's over. Out of closed session. So move. I have a motion. Oh,
Second.
wait a minute, Pam's not ready. I jumped the gun. Can I get a motion to come out of closed session?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Thomas, can you read the certification language on the motion?
I move that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. I'll need a second and a vote on that.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Black? Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mrs. Long?
I so certify.
Mr.
I
Thomas?
so certify.
And I so certify. We are back in regular session. Next on the agenda is the Vdot report from Mr. Kyle Bates. Welcome back, Mr. Bates, from being the temporary to the assistant to the temporary to the gone to the back.
I am back.
And it's good to have you back.
Absolutely. You can't see me. I'm smiling under here for sure. So, well, Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board, I really do appreciate it. Appreciate y'all having me here tonight. It is nice to be back home. You know, I took a little hiatus down in Chesterfield County, but I am coming back to the area. This is home for me. My wife's excited. I was telling Mike, my hour and 15-minute commute went down to a 15-minute commute. So all is good. All is good. But I'm very excited to be back with you all. So real briefly, I wanted to go through our quarterly report. I provided that to you all. We don't have to go through all the details. And I will say I'm coming back to the area and trying to refamiliarize myself with a lot of the projects. So if there's some things that I missed on here that you all want to cover, by all means, let me know. I can add some things for next time, whatever you all want to see. You know, I do try and hit some of the projects, just some of the fine details. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. And just to go through some of the supervisor updates, Mr. Seeley, you know, you and I had spoken about Sparta Road, and I actually had reached out to Kevin here recently. Those trees on Sparta Road, there's about a group of about 4 or 5 of them that are going to be taken out this week. So those will be removed so that they are posing a threat to the road. So we are going to knock them out this week per se.
And we put a no Kevin Whiteman sign on that part of Sparta Road so they don't come down on him.
That's right. That one's in the works. We'll talk about that later. Route 608, Lakewood Drive. We also spoke about some water that was running across the road. We didn't find any evidence of the water. However, we did find the pavement deficiency. So my staff went out there. They're going to have our indoor pothole patching truck is going to go out there within the next week or two just to cover up some of the pavement deficiencies, and eventually within the next 60 to 90 days or potentially in the spring, once we get some hot temperatures, we're going to have to dig some of those areas up and patch them with asphalt. We'll take a look at it during the next heavy rain event. We didn't see anything that stood out, but like you said to me, or at an earlier date, there were some issues out there with drainage, but we'll keep an eye on that one.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas, you and I spoke briefly about Shepard Hill Road. So that it does meet the criteria for a rural addition, which is good news. So I'm working with Mr. Fincham and trying to look at some alternatives as far as how we can get that right-of-way dedicated and dedicated to public use. So he's looking at it from his standpoint. I'm going to look at it from an estimate standpoint and see if we can find the money in future years through the secondary 6-year plan or something along those lines to fund these improvements so that we can get it up to state standards, bring it into the system, and go from there. Some of the construction projects, one of which is actually a rural addition in Caroline Village. There's some roads in there. The 3 UPCs that are listed here are planned to be hard surface via surface treatment prior to the winter months. So that's going to be done, like I said, prior to the winter. We've been working on trying to get those roads shaped and ready for the hard surfacing that's coming. Route 207, the westbound bridge replacement over the Mattapani River, that is scheduled to be completed in September of 2021. That work is ongoing. The last one under construction is a new one probably to everybody. On Route 30 on the county line, this is actually a Richmond district project. And it came to my attention within the last month or so. I want to just at least bring that to y'all's attention. It is they're doing some superstructure repairs only on the westbound bridge. They're going to have one lane open at all times, but you will see some lane closures out there. Just want to bring it to your attention that rehabilitation is going to be finished in spring of 2022. Some of the things for preliminary engineering, a lot of these you all have heard before. I think some of them I spoke about when I was last here a couple years back. Route 639, widening 2 lanes to 4 lanes, that design is ongoing. The current advertisement is scheduled for September of 2021. We sent some landscaping plans. I know that was something I discussed last time I was here actually. Some landscaping plans to the county. I think Mike and I were actually just talking. He's going to provide some comments back, and we're going to look at some different alternatives I think were suggested from the board. So Route 639 Charlesburg, that current advertisement is on schedule for October of 2021. Jump down a couple, the I-95 rest area truck parking expansion. We're looking to add 50 additional truck parking spaces at the southbound rest area near the 108. That is advertised, we're looking to go to add in February of 2021. And then the last item here is some sidewalks in Bowling Green. We're using some state funding to replace sidewalks as needed for safety issues. We are dedicating about $75,000 or so towards these sidewalks every year until we can get a lot of these deficiencies taken care of.
Can I add an address to that since?
Absolutely.
If you will look at 328 North Main Street, Vdot has put barrels and tape up along that stretch of sidewalk, which is in some places gone.
Yep.
So in the event that you've done that, can we get somebody to take a look at that and give us an estimate on when that might, because I notice it's just like Lakewood Drive. They resurfaced the whole town. Part of Lakewood all the way down to the pond is actually in the town, and they didn't do any surface maintenance to that road at all either.
Right.
So I know there's pieces in town that supposedly got all done, but we sort of skipped, and the sidewalks are sort of in the same vein. Once you cross everybody just thinks of when you cross the light all the way down through Main Street as being just the town sidewalks, when in actuality, when you cross going north on the left-hand side going towards Fredericksburg, there is sidewalk all along there that's in really bad shape.
Yep, so I actually had met with the town earlier today. What I'm going to do, and Mr. Seeley will keep you in the loop as well, we're actively putting together a plan right now to address the certain areas. Given the level funding, assuming that funding continues to come, we'll put the plan together in the next 2 or 3 years and produce that to you all, and we can change that plan and move it around as is, or as needed, I should say. We're going to address the safety concerns immediately. So if we've got something that is a trip hazard, even if we have to rip that out and put asphalt back for a time being until we can get there and put some concrete back at a later date, that's what we've got to do. So we're in the process of looking at some of those now. That address you mentioned was something that was mentioned to me earlier today. So
okay, good. I'm just trying to overlap. I know there are people coming off of town council. Elections are coming, so some things sometimes fall through the cracks, and it's been brought to my attention many times. I didn't want to, since you were here tonight, I didn't want to miss that opportunity.
Well, I don't plan on going anywhere. Here to stay for a little while, so absolutely, we can keep that one moving. And then just some maintenance items to go over. We're actually working on our I believe our second round of secondary mowing right now throughout the county. I think they were in the Sparta area and the Woodford area, but we do have one more round of primary mowing. We have a contractor that's going to be starting that on October 5th. I've also provided to you all some tree trimming routes. I didn't go into the route numbers because I think it just would have been a lot of numbers, but I did include some of the road names that we're going to look to do. This is just tree trimming. This is a contractor that will go out and wholesale trim the trees on these routes so they don't hit school buses, things like that. It allows the sun to get in, dry the roads off quicker, all the things you all already know. So those are some of the routes that are on that list for the upcoming year. And then the last maintenance item, we're working on some shoulder repairs on 207 in Caroline County. So that's it for the board report. Again, if there's some items you all need me to take a look at, again, there may have been some things that fell through. Anything I've missed, absolutely, by all means, send my way. Do y'all have any questions?
Mr. Forehand? Questions for Mr. Bates?
I'm going to call you regarding an item off 207, and it's a Vdot easement.
Okay.
It's a strange, well, it's probably not strange to you. It's where it becomes, the Vdot property becomes no man's land.
Right.
And no one really takes care of it, and the trees have grown up through the fence. And now it's become an eyesore in front of several businesses that are on. Is
this by the hotel?
Hotel, Waffle House,
yes,
post office.
I've met out there before. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can discuss and get the specifics, and maybe I can meet out there. And
yeah, just looking more just for options on what could be done. Could we bulldoze it all and just put a new fence up and start over?
Yeah. Start
the tree growing process all over again.
Yeah. These are some conversations we can have. There's the limited access area, and we don't let just anybody go into limited access for obvious reasons. But that being said, there may be some things that we can work together and figure something out between the county, Vdot, and potentially even some of the owners there. So
yeah, I would, and if needs to be me to go poll the owners, see if there's any interest in them contributing to the maintenance in some way. It would only help them.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Understood.
Thank you.
It's funny how things come around. I'm pretty sure I dealt with a property owner out that way. So.
Really? Okay.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Bates, I just have a couple. I appreciate, we joke around about it, but with what happened with Mr. Whiteman, but the reality behind it is when you're traveling down some of these roads, you see limbs, for example, in my district on Ladysmith Road, as you're heading towards Route 1, you go through towards Bridlewood, there's a whole heck of a lot of trees, and there's a whole heck of a lot of limbs, and it's, I don't know how some of them haven't come down.
Right.
And so if you guys could take a serious look at that. The other thing too, on that same road between what is Lake Landor and the Bridlewood subdivision, a couple of years ago there was some of the shoulder is getting eroded. It's just, there's a gully there, there's a natural gully. Obviously a lot of the rain is going to pour down into that area. And some of the shoulder had been eroded. And Vdot came over and fixed it, but it's eroded again. So I think it's some more of a, you can patch it a bunch of times, but when you have a heavy rain events or something, that shoulder is going to keep on eroding unless there's something that's done to veer the water away from the road. So you're going to continue to have that problem. You're going to be wasting money by just patching up the shoulder or the side of the road and not doing something with the drainage there. I don't know if what you need to fix that.
Okay.
The other thing too, Mr. Forehand actually and I went out a couple years ago and did it ourselves, and we've had the county, but the curb and gutter as you're heading, it's actually Mr. Forehand's district, but as you're heading towards the stoplight on Route 1 on Ladysmith Road, there is, you have the curb and you have some drainage. There was actually trees growing up out of them a couple years ago, and that needs, I don't think that you guys have touched it, or a lot of times we have the county weed eat it, but there needs to be some weed. It looks terrible. It just doesn't look welcoming to the whole area. And I think we've been having the county mow some of that. And it would be really nice if you guys just put some weed, something to kill the weeds down there, and just cut it. It wouldn't take a lot of effort to make it look more appealing. And then finally, if you could tell us just publicly, when do you expect I know you're talking about the discovery and so forth, when do you expect construction on the Ladysmith Road? Actual construction on the major project between Route 1 and 95. When do you expect that to actually begin?
Yeah, so just looking at the report, it looks like it's currently going to add in September of 2021. So I would imagine probably in early 2022. But what I can do is I can add that estimated construction date to the next board report. That way we've got
that.
That.
And then the same thing with the one out on the curb in Charlesburg. Mm-hmm. That would be great if you could give. People really want to know. They really kind of more want to know when they can expect the inconvenience to kind of start for them. Obviously, this is going to be good for them in the future, but they just want to know for purposes. So if you could let us know, I would appreciate it.
Yep,
That's all I have,
absolutely.
Mr.
It's usually very, very quickly after the ad date, unless anything.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bates.
Mr. Underwood? Thanks, welcome back, Mr. Bates, and thank you. Just want to make two comments. We appreciate the new signage on Ruther Glen Road and Signboard Road. That intersection really helps out in terms of knowing what to do. And then, of course, the new paving on Route 30, heading toward King William going west. So we appreciate that also. So I think you're doing a pretty good job in the district. And if I have anything, I'll be glad to call you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Long?
Good evening. I want to tell you your tree trimmers are on Tidewater Trail right now, and I don't know what company you have doing it this year, but they are doing a knockout job. It really looks nice what they've done so far.
I'll pass that along to the contractor. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So just looking forward to seeing them continue, considering every time we have a storm, we have trees down on the road. Do you know if the Portabago community ever got their fresh top coat? We put them off for a while. They were supposed to get done, but I haven't had a report that it has been done.
I will have to look into it. I do not believe that it was done as of now, but I do remember, I'm pulling into my memory from about 1.5 to 2 years ago, but I do remember we were having some conversations about some Cape Seal in Portabago Bay. I can look into it and loop back around with you.
Right. I know they agreed to wait because of a budget issue, and so I don't want them to be forgotten because they were willing to wait. Glad to see Caroline Village is going to be done before the winter, and it's just good to see you back. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, Mr. Bates, welcome back. You and I have had a few conversations since you returned, and it's good to see you, and the more things change, the more they stay the same, because we're right at the same point for a couple of things. But
That's it.
I have an easy promise to keep. I told somebody a couple of months ago I wouldn't say anything bad about Vdot, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Vdot because you've been doing a really good job. I do have a couple of quick questions, though. The 207 speed limit, you mentioned that it is 60 from the bypass to Belmont, basically.
Yes, sir. We just posted that within the last week or 2 weeks.
Yes. Now, we do still have the bridge construction, so it's 45, along the construction zone.
If there's a work zone speed,
Right.
it will supersede.
But that's something that VDOT has done pretty much on its own, and that's fine. We did talk about Edwards Road, and we've had that private conversation. I think we'll, follow up privately. Yes, but you did put a sign up that said road ends on Edwards?
It should be an interstate maintenance sign.
Okay. Would it be possible for you to add onto that sign, because a lot of people that come out of the subdivision and, are used to doing what they used to do, go down to the end of the road and then they have to turn around and go all the way back. Is it possible that on that sign that you could have a sign that says 301 South this way, which really directs them through Brookwoods, which is what we're trying to do eventually?
Yeah, let me take a look at it. I mean, we could do, a route shield assembly of some sort, similar to what you've got just in the town of Bowling Green. Let me take a look at it, and it's possible, just to try and get people to where they need to go.
Yeah, we need, especially emergency type folks that,
Right.
they're, kind of focused on something else, and then they get there and say, oh, I can't go this way. So if we had a sign there that said 301 South, they could drive through Brookwood and then come out at the good intersection. And there's a couple of other quick things that we talked with Lynn Keenan when she was here before about a ditch cleaning schedule, so we could kind of know what was coming next. And I'm not going to ask for that now, but if you could get us some sort of idea of where you're going to be working on the ditches, and it gives us a better chance to respond to our folks that ask about it and things of that nature. And the last thing was another thing I spoke to Ms. Keenan about, which is probably 8 or 9 months ago, which is Canola Road. And on Canola Road, there are, especially on the 301 side, there are a lot of places where the ditch, I guess, is 2 or 3 feet below the road. I don't know how we fix that, but those are kind of hazards. and the road is so narrow now, I mean, is there anything we could do to fix that?
Well, there's a couple of options, some of which could get, we'd have to look at some funding that could be available for upgrades. You know, if we talk about having a shoulder, you can't have the shoulder without moving the ditch, assuming, like you said, the existing ditch line is directly on the side of the road. In an ideal world, you've got your main line on Panola, but then you've got a 2 to 3 foot shoulder on either side, and then you've got 3 to 5 feet of ditch on either side. And then no trees. That would be ideal. In this case, this is a road that likely came in with the Bird Act back in the 30s, 1930s. So we maintain it as is, but that being said, if there is a drop off from asphalt to ditch, if there is any opportunity to place some shoulder stone to kind of give some forgiveness, we can do that. That's normal maintenance of the roadway, and that's something absolutely we can look at doing, and I will look at doing. If we're talking about anything further as far as widening, then we're going to have to talk about things like acquiring right-of-way along the frontage of Panola, and that's when we start talking about a full-on construction project, a widening project. There's a little bit more that goes into that, as you know. So let me look at it first from just a maintenance standpoint to see if we can add some shoulder stone to the existing roadway. But any further conversations we may have to talk a little bit more about utilizing some secondary 6-year plan or something along those lines. But it would get costly quick. So.
Well, I know I'm in good hands, so I do appreciate it, and I thank you for all you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I will add, because I heard it a couple times, we talked about these trees. So I have the tree trimming routes that are, these are branches that are overhanging the road. I think a lot of what we've talked about tonight, and I think, Mr. Whiteman would mirror these sentiments, is that we've got some trees along the side of the roads that are falling into the roads after we have a saturated rain season, and then high winds, things like that. So, many of these trees are on private property. The department doesn't necessarily have the ability to go onto private property and remove trees. However, we have done it in the past where, and Mr. Seeley, I think you and I had a brief conversation about it on the phone the other night. There may be an opportunity to try and do some kind of a safety study and identify some of these trees that are within the clear zone on these high to mid volume secondary routes throughout Caroline County. If we can identify what those trees are via some kind of a safety study, we could look at utilizing some different types of funding to, if the department were to go and remove all the trees in Caroline County that are on the side of the road, we'd be broke very quickly. So that being said, what we could work together to try, we could do the study, maybe do some of the warning sign upgrades, pavement upgrades, whatever it may be. But if there are some items in the clear zone, whether that's trees or potentially utility poles or what have you, these are conversations that we could have with your county staff and see if we can find some funding available to try and remove some of those items that are within the clear zone via trees. So just something to think about, and I can have those conversations offline. But there's some alternatives out there if we have some specific routes that we want to take a look at and prioritize. So.
Hearing nothing else, thank you for this evening. I know we had to hold you up a little bit. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But thanks again for coming, and welcome back.
Thank y'all. I very much appreciate it.
Appointments, Board of Equalization, Mr. Black.
Yes, I'd like to appoint Rosemary Ames, who was my last one, to the Board of Equalization.
I also have Lynn Lenahan, who was also the appointment I had last time. Can we get a motion, make a motion for both of those, Mr. Black?
Yes, I'd like to appoint Rosemary Ames and Lynn Lenahan to the Board of Equalization.
I'll second.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second.
All right.
Now we're in the outer limits, or?
I did, but
Yeah,
it
Clay,
doesn't matter.
actually, Mr. Forehand.
Several of us did.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Will this wrap up all the appointed spots for the Equalization Board?
Did you appoint one?
No, because there were
I think
fewer
there are
spots.
6. There are 6 spots.
Everybody gets one now.
So everybody gets one, so you'll
Okay,
need
so
to
I, so I
find,
didn't worry about it because I thought there were 5 like there were in the past.
I understand.
Okay, all right, I will, fix that for 2 weeks.
Can he make that appointment at our work session if possible?
Yeah,
Because I think they
absolutely.
need to get started as soon as possible.
That's why I said 2 weeks, not 3.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Planning Commission member, Mr. Black.
Yes, I'd like to reappoint Gary Dudley to the Planning Commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion to second, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Bay Consortium Workforce Development Board of Directors.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Gary Wilson to represent the county on that board.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. Thomas, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Consent agenda, anything anybody wishes to remove?
Mr. Chair, I just had a question on F.
Okay, we'll pull it. Motion to approve A through E.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Long. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item F, Mr. Black.
Yeah, I just had a question on the chiller. I thought we had, and I thought we had done some sort of efficiency where a lot of this, the windows were going to be replaced and the chillers and everything else was going to be replaced a couple of years ago through that company, ABM, and now this chiller, which I think covers this building, is now up for, and I don't understand why that wasn't covered in the whole project a couple of years ago.
It's more than one chiller that covers this building. That chiller would have made the project not pay for itself. Remember, the windows didn't pay for themselves. We actually added the windows in, but if you added the cost of that chiller into the project, it couldn't pay for it in energy savings. So it was budgeted in the FY21 budget, and I cut it, hoping that it would, and I know hope's not a strategy, hoping it would live a little while longer, but it didn't. So Public Works knew it was sort of on its last leg. And we did try to budget it, but when the pandemic hit, I cut it out. And then as soon as I cut it,
Do you have, like,
broke.
so, because these are major expenses to the county, do we have a list of all of these things, like as far as when, or a schedule for replacement for all
we
of the
do.
different buildings?
Yeah, they've developed that. They have that in a software program called Facility Dude that we've developed a number of years ago. So all of the infrastructure like that, it's all been tagged, the ages and serial numbers, all that stuff. Public Works has all that now. We didn't used to, but we do now.
Okay, thank you.
Motion, Mr. Black.
I'd like a motion to approve letter F.
Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Forehand. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Can we really take like a 10-minute break? Is that?
15?
Mr. Thomas is asking for 15. How about 12 and a half? Because then we're going to roll right into public hearing. We are going to take a roughly 12 or 13-minute break. I'm back on. Are we good?
I'm good.
It's on the bottom right.
Test one.
Excuse me? Okay.
That might be mine. Mic's on. No, mine is on.
Reggie's is
I'm
now.
on now.
That might be the power supply running in there or something.
I can turn it on.
It could easily be a computer, that is true.
Alright. It might be my computer. Yep, sounds like it.
Okay.
It's my computer. I'll turn it.
Are we good? But you think we're all right? All right. We think it may have been feedback from a computer, so,
Yeah.
which wouldn't surprise me.
And thanks for giving me the extra time. I'm trying to check on a friend, so.
I understand, I tried to buy you some time. We are going to come back into session, and we're gonna start with public comment. Public comment is for anything that's not on the agenda for public hearing. So if you're here for a public hearing, that is different than public comment. So public comment is now open.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Caroline County Board of Supervisor members. I am Jessie Rollins from the Mattapani District, and I'm coming to you tonight as your Complete Count Census Chairperson once again. 5 days ago, I shared with our community that the 2020 census is coming to a close on September 30 unless things change at the federal level. I share census information every chance I get, and a lot of people are saying they have not completed their census forms. We will not have another chance to have an impact on federal funding in Caroline County for another 10 years. And so 5 days ago, we were at, hold on 1 second, I'm so sorry. The estimated population count for Caroline County based on COVID funds number is 30,725 people. As of today, which was 5 days ago, we were at 69.6%, or approximately 21,385 of the county has responded. That leaves approximately 9,340 people who are not counted. Every uncounted person equals approximately $20,000 over a 10-year span. In lost federal funds, 50 people equal approximately $1 million in lost funds. And so my challenge was, can 14 days make a difference? And remember that you count. This morning at 9:30, I put up another post and reposted one of the videos that we made back in April. You know, might as well have fun the last 14 days. And since COVID hit and messed up everything that we were planning to do for census, hey, it doesn't hurt. So this morning we were at 69.9%. So tonight I'm happy to report, as I walked in and I checked the self-response dateline, that my challenge of can we get to 70% in 14 days? We have achieved that goal of 70% of Caroline County citizens have self-responded to the 2020 census. Our 2010 response rate was 66%. And so although 100% would be wonderful, 90% would be great, we have 8 more days, and who knows, maybe we can make it to 80%. That is a difference of 123 people, or approximately $246,000 a year, and over 20 years, $4,920,000. So, I mean, $4,920,000, let's get those zeros right. So as we close the 2020 census on September 30, I will again challenge each of you to share with your Board of Supervisor Facebook page, your personal emails, and any groups that you are a part of to encourage those in your district to please self-respond and call the 1-844 number or My Census 2020. You can also go on to the Census website and look for the self-response map, check on the state of Virginia, go to county, and then push census track, and you can see for yourself which end of the county is bluer than the other. Just saying. Again, we are at 70% as of today with 8 more days to go. So Caroline County, please, let's get counted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rollins.
Can you say that website again?
My
Please.
Census 2020.
My census, thank you.
Wait a minute, let me make sure I tell you right. Because if we're gonna make it public, we're gonna make it public, right? mycensus2020.gov. Or you can call 1-844-330-2020, and the Spanish number is 1-844-682, 1-844-468-2020. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing a wonderful job for us.
Yeah. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Public comment is now closed. We will now move into special exception 06-2019, James Olaf, owner applicant. This public hearing is continued if you have already spoken. You have spoken at this public hearing, you can only speak once. We have in our possession letters. Anybody that is here that wishes to speak may do so, and I will cross you off the letter list that we currently have. So does anybody here have a letter in that wishes to speak rather than have their letter read? Okay, the letters to be read, just so we're clear, is Albert Lilly, Deborah Culbertson, Kitty Gordon, Luke Gordon, Mark Culbertson Jr., Robert and Cindy Johnson, Sissy Coleman, Willie and Ashley Carneal. If any of them are here and wish to speak rather than have their letter read, come up to the mic now, because once we start down the letters, anybody else wishing to speak that didn't speak last time that is here this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I was just handed another letter from James Cecil.
Okay.
So I guess he's part of the letters.
Mr. Thomas, do you want to start with a letter and just we'll work our way, because we have them and they should all be, I think, pretty much in order.
Okay, the first letter that I have is,
And again, each letter only gets 3 minutes, and when we get to the end of, when we get to 3 minutes, the letter is going to be stopped being read, just so everybody's aware.
I can't see the thing.
The timer.
see the
He
timer.
can't quite, I can give you a 30-second.
All right, I'll start right now. My wife and I reside at 22481 Canola Road, Ruther Glen, Virginia, Mattapani District.
Who is it?
This is less than, it's from Jack Lilly. This is less than 0.7 of a mile from the property in question, and Canola Road is used daily to and from work, in addition for family purposes. References made to the planner's report referred to as PR. It is noted the area is agricultural preservation and the subject property is rural preservation. The applicant proposes a commercial use for a variety of activities, all of which are opposed as being contrary to and inconsistent with agricultural and rural use and settings. The rural character of the property would be destroyed as would the character of the surrounding area. Once given away and sacrificed, this rural character cannot be restored. Canola Road is not suitable for the activities proposed. Applicant proposes to host weddings among other activities. Applicant wants 70 events, 20 allowing 200 persons and 50 events allowing 150. If 2 persons arrive by 1 vehicle, that would amount to 100 vehicles in and out of the subject property by Canola Road for 20 events and 75 for 50 events. The applicant will seek an alcoholic beverage license to dispense alcohol. If such license is or is not in being, persons will bring such beverages to the location for consumption. After consumption, they will drive on Canola Road in violation of the law to the risk of persons who use the road otherwise. This traffic count is in addition to the suppliers of goods and services and persons who would work on subject property to accommodate the activities. Granola Road is a curvy with blind curves and narrow. It is less than 17 feet wide in some locations. The road is as such narrow width that does not qualify for markings by the Highway Department. Severe and deep ditches are present in the absence of shoulders for the road in much of the distance between our residences. I refer you to the references made by the planner in the PR. The purpose used would affect the pattern or development since this is now no development. It will adversely affect the use of neighboring properties by noise and traffic. It will adversely affect the health and safety of persons residing in the neighborhood with unreasonable traffic. It would be detrimental to the safety and injurious to the property in the neighborhood. Vehicular
You have
traffic
15 seconds. Mr.
generated
Thomas.
will be hazardous to existing. There will be no significant benefit, financial or otherwise, to the county as such or the citizens thereof. People will come to this location to socialize, party, and play. Who should have a greater weight to their voices? Those living in the area who will be adversely affected or those who come to play?
Time is up.
If the board grants this request, the answer is clear, the applicant. So he's saying vote no.
Okay.
That was Jack Lilly.
This letter is from Deborah Culberson. Dear Supervisors, my name is Deborah Culberson. 35 years ago, my husband and I built a home on the Canola Road. We chose it for its farming fields and majestic beauty. In our opinion, it remains the nicest road in Caroline to this day. However, Canola is a narrow road and can be very unforgiving if not driven with respect. Since the oldest golf course went in, we've had golfers flying and driving erratically like they are late for an appointment. This in combination with farming equipment, school buses, 18-wheelers, and many other drivers that use Canola Road as a cut-through to and from 301 and 207. When leaving the golf course, drivers seem to be somewhat intoxicated and distracted. We have the Colemans, Gordons, Collins, Cornelius, Culberson's, Powell's, Facer, and Cox names on Canola, and of which they consist of the 27 homes out of 35 on Canola. So you can see we want our road to stay as safe as possible for our families. We don't feel that another Olaf venue is an already overused road is to the best interest of our families. It would only bring more traffic. Canola Road has extremely deep ditches on the 301 side of it, meaning someone here can be very dangerous if you're not using good judgment or respecting the road. On the 207 end, it has a few sharp curves that claim more than a few accidents. We don't need another venue where drinking will be done that will surely impair and add to unsafe situations. The homeowners on Canola want our road to be as safe as possible for our families. Adding more traffic to an already overused road, it's a recipe for disaster. For these reasons, we strongly oppose the Olaf venue. Sincerely, Deborah Culberson.
Thank you. Dear members, my name is Kitty Gordon. I reside on Canola Road in the Mattapani district with my grandson Luke and his wife Blair and little Annie. As a college student, I admired Caroline County when my parents took me to Mary Washington College, and we frequently stopped in Bowling Green for ice cream. I moved to Panola in 1964 from the west end of Richmond with my husband and 3 children, Nancy Carson, Billy and Bobby Gordon. I taught English 28 years in Caroline County Public Schools. I opened Polecat Antiques in 1974 on the Canola Road railroad tracks with my daughter-in-law, Valerie. I would like to share memories of the property that Mr. Olaf is requesting as a wedding venue. I met the previous owner, Mrs. Anderson, in 1965. She had a great love for her home, Palestine farm, and especially her gardens. She was so happy to share her spectacular gardens for one of my granddaughters to be married there. I have happy memories and photographs of trips, of antiques, and sipping mint juleps from her front porch while viewing the harmonious, peaceful surroundings of Panola. I also included our memories with Mrs. Anderson, showing my mother a special lily that she named after her, Annie Arda. More pictures are of her sharing her beagles with my son, Billy. Knowing her as well as I did, I know that she would be appalled to see her historic home and beautiful gardens now demolished and ruthlessly bulldozed down. Mrs. Anderson wishes would never include large gatherings and loud music with traffic going up and down the tall hill in her peaceful yard on the grounds where her beloved home once stood. She and her husband refused many offers to sell their property and made it known that there was not a desire to change any part of their property from agricultural, rural preservation to a zoning that would destroy the peace, beauty, rural atmosphere, and beauty, and leading to their beloved Palestine farm. I find it odd that Mr. Olaf did not contact the residents living on Canola Road to discuss his plans for the Anderson property. Therefore, only a few residents were aware of the wedding venue until the day the Anderson home was torn down and the new barn was constructed. I have read several letters written by people supporting the wedding venue, and I take issue with their devout and misleading remarks. Their statements and ideas that everyone living north of the railroad track should use 207 versus 301 is a ludicrous idea. Everyone in our household uses 301 daily for essential commutes, including my cleaning lady. I'm at the end of the clock on that, and there is another whole page that I will give this to Ms. Hall to be entered into the record.
You want to read just the last part?
I don't know that, I would appreciate your strong vote for no on this venue based on the adverse effects it will have on the rural community, my family, my friends, and all those affected. All right, this letter is from Mr. Luke Gordon. To whom it may concern, I am a lifelong resident of Caroline County, Virginia. To be more specific, I have spent my entire life in Panola. It is a beautiful, quiet place, and many of its residents prefer to keep the location undisturbed. I openly object to the potential of adding even more development and traffic to Panola. Presently, and with the inclusion of the golf course, we have experienced an increase in traffic. Canola Road is not simply a thoroughfare. It is a winding road with deep ditches, line curves, no line markers, and has been the unfortunate place of accidents and even tragedies. Allowing the venue location in this area with the capabilities of multiplying road traffic is very short-sighted. In addition, it reduces the quality of life for the current residents. No one will want to walk to Polecat Creek with their family if the road is congested with intoxicated partygoers, and including golfers, or concern for the safety of their children and pets crossing the railroad. This should be an easy decision to make on behalf of your constituents. I oppose. Respectfully, Luke A. Gordon.
This letter is from Mark Culbertson Jr. I am opposed due to traffic safety, mainly because we have several small children and we live near the road. They have to get on the bus. It's unsafe for bikers going up and down the road on a regular basis on this bike route. Also, I jog on the road and already have to worry about the traffic constantly. I don't want increased traffic and the inevitable drunk drivers. We already have too many accidents and incidents. I don't believe Canola Road is wide enough to accommodate the increased traffic that a business like this will bring. The large farm equipment currently needs to also use Canola Road. There are numerous large farms and farmers on this road. They farm for a living and have been for many, many years before this business. This is RP, not for wedding venues. I urge you to vote no and for the citizens that live and drive on this road. Mark Culbertson.
This letter is from Robert and Cindy Johnson. We are residents of 114 Canola Road, Ruther Glen, Virginia. We are very opposed to the wedding venue due to traffic safety concerns. It is already too much traffic and accidents on Canola Road. We are concerned for our safety and others on Canola Road due to more traffic. This is a rural area and venues will draw many people to events that take away from the rural agricultural living. The extra traffic on the road and the cars going in and out of the venue will take away from rural atmosphere. It will be bad for local farming businesses and school buses and school commuters and work commuters to meet them. We moved here many years ago to enjoy rural living. It is already a hassle to dodge the fast drivers that run us off the road regularly due to not knowing the area. There have been many accidents on this road and I have seen the effects. The road is not wide enough for more. Therefore, I'm opposed to the venue. Robert and Cindy Johnson, Mattapani District.
I have a letter from Sissy Coleman, but it starts off with saying, I spoke at the last meeting. You think she means the planning commission? Okay. All right, in that case, we'll go right ahead. It's Sissy Coleman, 22064 Canola Road. I spoke at the last meeting and also submitted a letter against the request for Special Exception 06-2019. I would like to express my opinion again at this meeting. The main reason that my family would be against this venue are the concerns of the traffic it would create on Canola Road. My family lives on the road and has for over 100 years. They are farmers and move large equipment up and down Canola Road on a regular basis. We've had several occasions of being run off the road, flipped off, and cursed out by people using the road. A recent incident was just this past spring when my husband was coming from Richmond Turnpike, Route 301, and stopped at the railroad tracks for a train to go by. A convertible came up behind him as he waited for the train to pass. When the train passed and the arms went up, the convertible whipped around him and passed him on the railroad crossing, which you may say no big deal, but the other detail is he was on the tractor with a planter hooked behind the tractor. May not be no big deal to you or the guy in the car, but these are the types of things we deal with, and if you ever have crossed that railroad crossing, you would know too that this is not a smooth or level crossing. It has a blind spot which tells you how steep or unlevel it is. I understand that the accident report shows a limited number of reports on the road, but how do you report something like that? By the time you realize what happens, they're gone. On another occasion, we were moving the sprayer, which the tires are over 6 feet tall. While traveling down the road, a motorcycle came behind us. Instead of waiting for a safe place to pass the sprayer, the girl on the bike decides to go underneath the sprayer to get in front of it. Again, how do you report that? So it's incidents like these that don't show up on police reports, but we deal with them more than we care to. I'd like you to also know why the people on the road were not invited to tour the venue like he did when the golf course was put in. Instead, posted signs immediately went up to the meeting back in the fall. I don't understand that. I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy feeling about being a neighbor. We too have a great interest in Caroline County supporting local events, charities, and organizations. We too contribute to many of these, but I don't see the relevance of that situation. What does donating money to an organization have to do with the issue at hand? We are all good people, but with a difference of opinion. Just to summarize, I feel that the impact on the road and my father's livelihood is the issue. I'm concerned about that. It has nothing to do with anyone personally, excuse me, I can't see anymore. Again, they have the right to their opinion, and I would say no to this venue. Okay, that was it.
This one is from Willie and Ashley Carneal to the Caroline County Board of Supervisors. It is unfortunate that we can't attend this meeting, but we feel that it is very important to let you know that this venue will affect everyone that lives or drives on this road in one way or another. My wife, Ashley, is a nurse and is not able to get off to attend this meeting. We don't get notices and only heard about the hearing from our neighbors. I am Willie Carneal, and I am caring for our children tonight while my wife works at the hospital. I, Willie, have been a resident of Canola Road all my life, and my parents live next door and have lived in Caroline all their life, too. My wife moved here when we were married, and we bought our home in 2013. We are concerned for our children. Even though we live near the end of Panola, I still have a problem with Canola Road traffic that comes all the way through. The residents and school traffic are bad enough with all the accidents and getting run off the road. I am opposed for safety due to added traffic from the venue. I ride bicycles with my 4 children on the road and already have to worry with traffic constantly. It is also unsafe for other bikers coming through here on a regular basis. Canola Road is a bike route. Entering the exit and exiting my driveway with the current traffic is dangerous enough without the additional traffic. Canola Road is too narrow, has many curves, and people drive too fast. Increased traffic and drunk drivers will be an issue that the venue will bring. We already deal with that. It will just be more. The farmers have to deal with it too on a everyday basis. This road is rural preservation, and it definitely not the place for a wedding venue. A wedding venue needs to go on a wider and straight road. I am asking you to vote no for the 2 of us. Thank you.
This letter is from James Cecil, Mattapani District, to whom it may concern. My name is James Cecil. I have been a Caroline County resident my entire 43 years of life. My wife and I live on Canola Road and witness firsthand the daily traffic and have learned how to maneuver driving on the road. We have learned what curves to slow down, where the road drops off, and even what parts flood when we have heavy rain. We also know the best times to travel and when not to. That being said, according to the venue data given by Mr. Olaf, we are assuming this won't change, although I'm not sure how increased number of vehicles will not change the amount of traffic. No one can explain that other than false accusations that these drivers are not going to travel from 95. We are told they will all be coming to and from 301. We have also been advised to not go to the 301 route if it we have also been advised to not go to the 301 route if it bothers us. My wife Sarah must go to her office on 301, which is just a few miles from Canola Road, so this is not a reasonable suggestion. I do ask you look again at the data, or the lack thereof provided to us. We were told there were no DUIs on Canola Road, when in fact there were. One DUI ran into the tree, a single vehicle, on our property in our front yard on 3/29/18. There was also another DUI not mentioned, but it was reported on 2017 county accident reports as a vehicle coming out of Canola Road, in parentheses, golf course, rolled over to a drunk driver with injuries. Why were these omitted from the data given? It was reasonable for us to request a deputy be present at the venue, or a sobriety check to be given before they are allowed onto the road. I myself grew up on a farm, and I personally know how hard it is when there is a drought for years. The granted special exception were intended to give the farmers alternate ways of making money so they could keep their properties when times are tough, and not for developers to find loopholes around them. How do we know when these special exceptions will stop? How many is one person allowed to apply for? Is this person allowed to continually request changes to an area so many times that it will no longer be rural, residential, or farming? It will then be a commercial venue, and in the future, what else? He is already talking about luxury housing. What does this mean? Another exception, I'm assuming, just as he's trying to preserve the area or just knowledgeable enough to get around the rules. My family and I would appreciate you voting no, and thank you for your time. That is the last letter that I have. Anyone who has not spoken at this public hearing, anyone that has not spoken at this public hearing, last call, anyone who has not spoken at this public hearing, I'm going to close the public hearing for special exception 06-2019 Olaf James property applicant.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a couple of questions first before the rest of the board does?
Sure.
Please. Mr. Olaf, if I could ask you a question, or you or your manager, Brenda, if she would like to come forward. And this is really just, one for you. And it's kind of ironic that I've read the Sissy Coleman letter that asked for people to tour the venue.
Yeah.
Are you aware that I asked Brenda several times for you to have a meeting with the residents?
Yes.
Okay. And that didn't happen?
No.
Why didn't that happen?
Well, really, for several reasons. First of all, most of the opponents agreed that the barn is fine, and in fact beautiful, and provides a good setting. But their issue is traffic, and viewing the barn isn't going to change the traffic issue at all. Secondly, every time, at least I'd say two key groups of the opponents hear or see or say anything, it gets converted into a personal attack on me, my family, my businesses. In response to your request, I ask every friend I have, some of my supporters and other people, whether I should have them come and visit the barn, and no one said that that was a good idea. They all agreed. They all agreed that the outcome of that would be just more personal attacks on me. And a good example of that is that since the last hearing, someone made a comment, one of the opposers made a comment that this venue would not succeed because we didn't have any good quality hotels around. When I got up and spoke, I said, frankly, I don't agree that that would cause the venue to fail, but I agree, certainly in the county, we do need more quality lodging, more quality hotels. I then heard after the hearing that one of them said that I literally, when I was up here last time, had said that I was going to build a hotel. And I give that as an example. I mean, everyone, I think, certainly amongst the board and myself.
That's not really a personal attack, and
no, but it's excuse me.
Yeah, my point, when you left last time and we left last time, one of the things I said was I was trying to look for some sort of a win-win situation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know it's difficult because there are family members who are on both sides of this issue.
Yes.
Do you think it not in the best interest of all of us just to take the heat for an hour and let them say traffic's bad, traffic's bad and you say, I'm working with Vdot or the supervisor to try to make traffic better, but look at this asset I'm bringing to the community? Is that really a hard thing to do for an hour or so?
Not if it turns into more personal attacks on myself, my family, and my businesses.
But I don't think it would turn into personal attacks. Do you? I mean, if I attended with you, do you think and made sure it didn't turn into personal attack? Is that something you would be able to do?
I think that there's the sole legitimate issue in this, and I don't even believe it's an issue. When we come back to traffic, the sheriff has spoken, First Sergeant of the State Police has spoken, Vdot has decided to upgrade the signage along Canola Road, and by sheer coincidence, that began today. They're adding some signs, they're replacing some signs, all as traffic calming measures.
Yeah, and that's great. But again, my point is, do you think having an hour meeting with folks in the neighborhood, even though their issue is something you can't do, wouldn't be a good thing to say, I heard your complaints, I understand your complaints, and say what you just said. The sheriff said it's okay, the state police said it's okay.
It's even more than that. The traffic statistics, there's only been 5 accidents on the road since 2013. I believe there's only been 1 this year, and that involved deer. As I said at the last meeting, to me, one of the most powerful statistics is the fact that we opened the golf course in the fall of 2004. Since that time, hundreds of thousands of vehicles have gone into and out of the golf course, and there has not been 1 reported accident on Canola Road involving a vehicle going to or from the golf course.
And you're making my point more and more. Having a meeting with the residents or the neighbors that are on that road, that have lived on that road for 50, 100 years for their family, whatever, just to have the courtesy of saying, I've got this venue and I've had this venue here. I can pretty much do what I want to do with this venue. I want you to know that I'm trying to do the best possible thing. I'm even willing to attend that meeting with you to make sure it's not a personal attack. Would you be willing to do that if we said it was not a personal attack? I would ensure it wouldn't be a personal attack.
These people, look at the letters that were submitted by some of these people. I was referred to as anti-farmer. These people have no idea who I am.
Again, you're making my point.
I remain a farmer.
Mr. Chairman, we don't scrutinize the decisions of anyone else to this degree.
No, we do.
Mr. Thomas, he's correct. The road has been the major issue in all of this.
I had asked
we
personally
understand
Mr.
you
Olaf
asked.
and his manager if they would have a meeting. I'm just trying to inquire about having a meeting again. I'm not trying to.
Mr. Thomas, you can have a meeting anytime you want down there. This has been continued once.
I'm just
I don't
asking
think
Mr.
there's
Olaf.
going to be any continuance tonight. I'm going to tell you that.
I understood that before. All right. Question for Mr. Fincham, if I may. Thank you, Mr. Olaf. Mr. Fincham, condition 24, we have a review period of 3 years.
Yes, sir.
That seems a little long, especially since there's a facility there already. Is it possible to have a renewal period of 1 year and then a review at the 2nd year?
As the board is aware, renewal and review are 2 different things. Renewal, basically you go back through the process again, versus a review, which is strictly of the conditions that are approved by the board with the initial application. The board can always require a renewal if it so desires.
Well, I'd like to see at least and I see where we're going, you know, today, but I'd like to at least make the review for the first 2 years. Year one, just to make sure there's no issue. And then,
A review, not a renewal, a review.
yeah, I know what he said.
No, I'm making
Review.
sure I know what you said, review.
Yeah, I just said review. A review after the first year, a review after the second year, and then a review after the 5th year, if that's the case. So we make sure the first 2 years, there's no issues. And
Do we
then-
make that after the issuance of the certificate of occupancy or site plan approval?
Correct.
Some time frame
After
that we can reference,
After the CO.
okay?
Because that's when the project would start. And the other thing was the number of events. I think Mrs. Long had said something before about the number of events and counting.
Oh, well, my question was, Mr. Fincham, if you have a wedding, usually there's a rehearsal and a rehearsal dinner. Is that 2 events or 1 event?
If the facility is utilized the day before, it would be considered 2 events.
Okay.
Is it possible we can cut the number of events from 70-some to 50?
He's already cut down the number of events. I mean, at what point, I mean, this board, I'm going to be honest with you, this board has let a person who's dumping effluent into a creek over in Ladysmith area keep on going. But we're giving a guy who's been a great business partner, we keep on asking more and more and more. Let's think about that. We've let someone get away with polluting our rivers, and we're going to turn around and go after this gentleman over and over again when he's been successful with his golf course. So no, I'm not going down that path.
Okay, so 70 means 35 weddings, because they're 2 events. All right, I kind of know where we are. There's no way that I can support this event without having a meeting with the residents, and you know, it just would have made a much better neighbor.
Motion? You got a question?
We are going to change condition 24 to review within a year and to review the second year and then 5 years out.
On a 5-year cycle after that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve SBX 06-2019, Olaf James, owner applicant, with the amended.
With the review after
amended.
the occupancy permit has been
Yes.
issued.
Yes. Yes. Got it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You've got a second from Mrs. Long. Motion on the table. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a
Mr.
little bit
Underwood?
of discussion. While you were discussing, I went back and read some of the letters, and it always disturbs me when we make accusations about people. This is really just an issue and a matter of opinion. I think Ms. Sissy Coleman said it best. It shouldn't be an attack on Mr. Olaf, but as I read the letters over, that's what it really is. It's an attack on him. I want to hear your positions. I want to see what you have concern about. But when people attack other people, their neighbor, it really bothers me. It really bothers me. We've moved away from civility, whether people agree with us or not. We have to do a better job as a community and as a country. This sickens me again to read. Mr. Olaf is not responsible for people coming to his venue and breaking the laws. It's our responsibility to ensure that the road is safe and the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia are enforced. I'm when I moved here in '76, Ruther Glen Road didn't have all the traffic and all the truck stops. And it really impacted my quality of life, trying to get in and out, and they changed the road. But it also brought $5 million to Caroline County, where we, the taxpayers, don't have to pay additional. So it's a balancing act. But I would ask that as we go forward, though, that we find some civility to attack the issue and not the person. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Any further discussion? I'm going to ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote. Mr. Forehand?
That's okay.
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mrs. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
I remain nay.
And I vote aye. The motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Roloff. Agenda item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing is RZ 01-2020, MC Dean Incorporated, owner and applicant. They're requesting a rezoning from rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land to M1 industrial with no specified density on tax map 83-A-87, which contains 32 acres of land. The property is located on the west side of Coleman's Mill Road, which is State Route 656, south of the CSX Railroad right-of-way in the Reedy Church voting district. Proposed use is industrial. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this as being in the Carmel Church community planning area as rural preservation. In the Carmel Church planning area, that designation is actually a holding zone that we have for future development in that area. The applicant is requesting a rezoning of 32 acres on the west side of Coleman's Mill Road from RP to M1 Industrial. A proposed 210,000 square foot building and storage yard are proposed to support the industrial activities on tax parcel 83-A-83B, which is also MC Dean property. The surrounding properties are zoned industrial, business, as well as several properties zoned rural preservation. Included in your packet under attachment A is a zoning map of the surrounding area for your reference. Staff did not receive any significant comments related to the rezoning. Any comments that we did receive are actually site plan comments that we review as part of our site plan process. We did note that there is actually no commitment to extending public water and sewer to this property, but prior to the industrial use, commercial and industrial, water and sewer would be required for the proposed industrial use that has been stated. The applicant has submitted a proffer statement, which is included in attachment C for your consideration. Those proffers are consistent with those submitted with the previous rezoning request by MCD, including buffering of adjoining properties. You have a number of attachments in your staff report. I would note that the Planning Commission did forward this to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval. That was a unanimous vote. And with that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Questions from any board members before we open the public hearing?
Mr. Vincham?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at this map here. Which are the other parcels owned by MCD?
You are on
83A-87?
Okay. As you come across the CSX tracks, their properties are the properties that front Coleman's Mill Road to the right-hand side. There's one industrial property off of Coleman's Mill Road that is actually a wood yard that is owned by another entity. But they own everything fronting Coleman's Mill Road and to the south. So this piece is actually, that little commercial piece, the little red across
red
the
stripe,
street?
yep.
Yes, they own that as well.
Okay, and then that parcel that's adjacent to it, and then and it's hard to see, the buildings that are kind of shaded out, those are...
Yes, sir. Those are MCD's buildings.
All right, I just was trying to get
Yes, sir.
oriented. Thank you.
Can I ask him a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Fincham, isn't this right on the dividing line between Reedy Church and Mattapani?
Yes, sir, it is.
The
The railroad tracks are the dividing line.
Okay. And this has nothing to do with the railroad track project?
With the state project?
The CSX, right.
That is correct. This has nothing to do with that. Now, there have been discussions about potentially relocating the Coleman's Mill Road crossing.
Right.
That is not part of the rail improvements. That would be potentially part of the overall development of the MC Dean property.
But not this particular site?
That's correct, not this
Okay.
particular site.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I open the public hearing? At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing for RZ01 2020 MC Dean owner applicant. Anyone wishing to speak? I take it you're here to represent the owner?
Yes, sir.
Let me see if there's anyone else,
Okay.
and then we'll have you speak at that. Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, come on down.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Supervisors and staff. My name is Scott Courtney. I am with Resource International, and with me tonight is Justin Hicks, Director of Corporate Development. Since opening the Caroline facility in 2006, MC Dean has grown to over 200 employees, and they've invested more than $50 million within the county. Just last year, they added 70 employees and invested over $10 million within the plant itself. This year, MC Dean participated in manufacturing and assembling hospital cots in response to the COVID pandemic, and many thousand man-hours were spent in this effort. But I'd also like to highlight what I think may even be more important is the fact that MC Dean themselves have invested many thousands of hours teaching select Caroline County High School students a trade. Since 2018, they have sponsored 37 students in their on-site trade class and have hired 26 of those students. As of 2021, they anticipate 26 students who will be entering this trade program as well. So they have taken a direct interest within the trade, within the county, and within the development of fine high school people. However, tonight, we are here regarding the 32-acre parcel that Mr. Fincham has mentioned there at the railroad tracks and Coleman's Mill. It's currently vacant and heavily wooded. We anticipate that this building will be used right now as a warehouse once it is developed. Right now, MC Dean leases property off of Bull Church Road, and they want to have their materials a little closer to the facility than that, so that they will be able to consolidate their and make it more efficient for their process. Being that there will be a warehouse, we may be talking maybe 10, 20 trucks a day, and very few employees actually based out of the facility itself. One of the things within the attachments of the board package, you will see that there are or there's at least one graphic that highlights the proposed facility being probably more than 450 feet away from the closest residence. And then we're at 600 and some odd feet, and then 715, I believe, for the three closest residents that are there. As part of our proffer package, we have proffered 45-foot natural buffer along those residential adjacent properties to make sure that they, again, have no direct line of sight to the facility. Separate entrances will be created for truck and for private vehicles, and that also they will be perpendicular to Coleman's Mill Road. Right now, there's a driveway that is diagonal, and so we're going to make those perpendicular, and plus they also have adequate sight distance as well. Given that this facility is more than 400 feet from any of the existing public utilities, we propose to install a well and septic drain field system. Stormwater management will be reviewed by DEQ and must meet the Commonwealth's regulations for stormwater. And we have designed the site to be conscious of our neighbors and not to be too intrusive by the use that we've selected, as well as the location for the building. Therefore, tonight I'd ask that you approve this request. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. We'll wait till we close the public hearing. We'll see if there are questions for you at that time.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Last call on RZ01-2020 MCD and owner applicant. Public hearing is now closed. Questions from board members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Underwood?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve RZ01-2020 MCD Inc. owner applicant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, folks. And thanks for all you're doing in the community for the schools and for those taxpayers that you now support with increasing your facility size and employment. Next public hearing is RZ02-2020, Jordan, Lillian, and others, owner applicant. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your last public hearing tonight is RZ02-2020. Lillian Jordan and others, owner and applicant. They are requesting a rezoning from RR2, rural residential, with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres of land, to rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land on tax parcel 54-A-82C. Property is located at 17,203 North Roy Lane in the Mattapani voting district. The proposed use would be to allow the replacement of a manufactured home on the property. If the board recalls, there was actually a similar rezoning request from Ms. Jordan several months ago on another parcel of land that she has adjacent to this parcel. Purpose of that rezoning was for the same reason. We have the RR2 zoning district, which does not allow manufactured homes, and some of these properties do have manufactured homes on them that were placed there years ago. This is a similar situation with a similar request to allow the rezoning to RP to allow them to replace what was a manufactured home on the property previously. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on this matter and did forward it to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval.
Questions from any board members before we start?
I just have one, because I'm in favor of this, but I just want to make sure, you say there already is one, or there used to be?
There
We're
u-
not going to end up with two. We're definitely.
No, there
just
used to
one.
be, under certain conditions, you could end up with two. The RP zoning district allows, in addition to the principal dwelling, allows family apartments as well. So in theory, you could end up with a second dwelling on this property if there is adequate drain field sites available.
Right, as long as the well and the septic would handle it.
Correct.
That would be my concern. Right, and only family, that's fine, thank you.
Any other questions before I open the public hearing? I'm going to open the public hearing for RZ 02-2020, Jordan, Lillian, and others, owner applicant. Anyone wishing to speak? Are you the owner? I am here for my sister. Okay. Okay. Come on down to the mic and we can start from there. How's that?
That is fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tina Sunday. I guess I'm in Mattapani. Yes, Mattapani. And so I'm here on her behalf as well. We were unaware of the change on the property because our mom was the owner, and then she passed away. And so now we're trying to get everything straightened back out again because that house had burned down on the property in question, and we had no idea. And so now we want to switch it back to rural preservation where we'll be able to place a mobile home, like a double wide. But everything else has been checked out. Well, the septic, everything is fine, and that's ready to go. We just want to get that changed back.
Okay.
Okay. If you'll give us a few minutes, stay down front, and we'll close the public hearing. We'll move forward from there, okay?
Okay, thank
Just
you.
hang on 1 second.
I don't think we'll have a lot of questions.
I was going to say, anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Public hearing 02-2020, Jordan, Lillian, and other owner applicant is closed. Questions from the board?
If there's no questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. And you can see this is a case where there are extenuating circumstances. She did say the house that was there burned down, so now they're trying to put something there to at least.
And it's my understanding that you didn't ask for the rezoning. There wasn't it would just happened as a natural course, and this is a consequence of that rezoning.
Right.
That wasn't asked for.
Right. That was something they had to do based on the planning office. So in that case, I'm going to move that we approve RZ 02-2020 for Ms. Lillian, Jordan, and others.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
It passed. You okay?
You're done?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is the end of public hearings. We are on to new business. And in the audience this evening, as I see, is there goes everything that just fell off my table. Come on down.
Court rep.
Courtney sent you tonight, huh? He didn't want a late night?
Yep. He let me get out of the office, which I certainly appreciate. I have hard copies. I can bring them up.
If you'll give him to Mr. Pardon, he'll take care of that.
Can we just ask how much we save by doing this rezone? Rather than go.
Next time you need to ask him where you are on the agenda so you don't get here at 6 o'clock.
He just takes an early look at it, and if it's deep, he sends me.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a quick question?
Sure, Mr. Thomas.
Sir, would you tell us?
That was a joke, but.
What was his name again?
Alex?
Yes.
Would you tell us, with this refinancing, how much the county will save and how much it'll cost to refinance?
Yes, if you look, do you want me to just go through the
You
presentation?
could just, no, just tell me that.
It
You can do
is,
that.
in gross savings terms, total, over the life of the refinancings, it'll be 1.7 million.
We will save 1.7 million.
Correct.
Over 10 years?
Over,
remaining-
it'll be a little bit longer than 10 years, about
like
13, 14.
Yeah. And how much does it cost us now to do that?
It'll be in the neighborhood of, I think, probably around 200,000, 150,000, I believe.
We'll spend between 150,000 and we'll save 1.7, you said?
Correct, that's right.
In the long run, so the net saving will be 1.5 million.
No,
over
the
next
1.7 is factoring in those issuance costs already, so that's actually net of the issuance costs.
Oh, excellent. So you have
Mr.
done a
Thomas,
great
if you just
report.
want to make a motion because...
Well, first I've got to tell him to go back and tell Mr. Rogers that you have made the best report ever from Davenport.
There you go.
Okay, and on
You
that,
want, if you want that, it's on video.
it's on
Okay,
video. This is
perfect.
the
I'll
best
share it.
report we've ever had from Davenport. And I'm going to make a motion that we accept the refinancing plans from Davenport and move ahead.
I did have one question. I'll second.
And accept the resolution.
Mr. Forehand had one question.
Oh,
It says AAA tax exempt rates, but we're
right.
AA?
Yes, that's just the benchmark yield curve that is used
Because there
in
wasn't
the
a
public
graph for
market.
AA rates?
Sorry, what's that?
Because there wasn't a graph for AA rates?
That's just the conventional one. It's priced to a spread of the AAA.
And that's about $100,000 a year, about $110,000 a year we save because it's a 14-year.
Right, that was in the proposal.
So it really is.
It's a school bus.
It really is.
Alex, can you explain one other thing? And excuse me for not remembering. What was your last name?
Last name is Hawk.
Hawk?
H-O-C-K,
Hawk.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hawk. In the two resolutions we have, there is a rate reset that we're pulling out.
Correct.
So can you explain that?
Yes,
briefly,
sure.
to make sure we've got them. And we've got two resolutions, so
Yes.
if you'd like to explain that as part of your best presentation ever.
Are you referring to the 2014 bond?
Yes.
Yes. So that bond, the initial rate on that was 2.7% at the time of closing. And there's a provision in that bond where the lender has the option to reset that rate in 2024. And by doing the refunding now, we will lock in an interest rate for the rest of the term of that borrowing. And we are currently projecting to achieve savings on top of that based upon a 2.7% rate, assuming that that gets carried through to the final maturity.
So we need to actually make a motion to approve or accept the report from Davenport for the refinancing and approve the two resolutions that are submitted as part of that report.
Yeah, I was going to make sure everybody distinguished. They're not one. We have to approve both of these, not just one.
Correct.
And that's part of my motion.
I would.
It's one package, so we're doing both motions. Ben?
Yeah. Do we need to adopt these separately or together?
The resolutions are both part of the refinancing. Do I need one motion or two?
I would do two.
That's what I thought.
Clear that anyone who didn't like one or the other could vote against the one or the other. So I would do two separate ones.
Okay.
But just approve the resolutions.
All right, I'm going to make a motion. Well, we don't need a motion to do the refinancing because we're approving the resolution.
No.
Just approve the resolutions. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve resolution 1, which is for $8,487,000, the public facility lease refunding bond.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 3,310,000 for water and sewer system revenue refunding bond.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion opposed? Motion carries. Both resolutions have been approved.
That was great, Alan.
Perfect.
That was great.
Nice and easy does the trick. happy we can save you guys money, and appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight.
And tell Courtney you got, you know, the best presentation from ever.
Perfect. Well, I have it on video record, and I will send it to him as soon as I can.
There you go.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Will do.
Number 8 is just a request for an expedited hearing, which we will hear October 13th.
Can I explain that for Mrs. Long? That is actually Mrs. Long's district, but it is a person who apparently has been working this project for over 10 years because they started out in the Mattapani district and then moved to the Port Royal district.
I just had a little bit, we had a long discussion with these people about this apartment when they did this.
Right.
And they said that was no problem when they didn't need the apartment anymore, it would come down, that wasn't an issue. They were building this in such a manner that it wasn't going to be an issue. So I was a little taken back when they said they wanted to sell it with the apartment.
What they're doing is going through the rezoning process. There have been some health issues for the parents, so they have to move closer to the hospital in Fredericksburg. So they're basically going to sell the property, and it's, you know, of course, a medical condition. We usually say fine. What they're doing is working with the reseller, Mr. Manns, to sell it either as is or without the apartment.
Okay.
So that's why they're going through the rezoning to make it so they can sell it with the apartment or take the apartment down. So we're just trying to expedite.
I don't mind the
whole process.
expedited hearing, but I just remember the long discussion we had.
We had I had several long discussions, and I know the board did, but I do appreciate you, Mrs. Long, for allowing me to get involved, and she had me as a contact, so thank you.
All right, so a motion to do an expedited hearing on RZ 06-2020, Ernest and Yolanda Johnson for the October 13th meeting. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion for Mrs. Long, a second for Mr. Black. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Agenda item number 9. Now, this to me I thought would be real easy, but maybe I'm wrong. Mr. Cully, do you want to take the microphone for this?
Certainly. At your meeting, when we approved the second round of CARES, we had a line item in there in several of the departments for hazard pay, which is a allowed expense of CARES Act. And those things are people who would be public safety people mainly, or people that their job basically turned into working on CARES Act related things, which we had 3 people in public works that pretty much were either cleaning staff type people and or both Joey and Ted were working on purchasing things for the pandemic along with Chief Loftus and or making sure all those things were installed, all of the safety glass, all the supplies, all those things. So the permanent part of their job kind of went on second, and they were working for CARES first. So they were eligible under funding. But in looking at that, there are a whole lot of people that when we closed down to the public, we kept coming to work, but we were inside of a building. The convenience center attendants, the grounds crew, my public works crew, my public utilities crews were all out amongst the public. And so I thought it was a fair way to look. And registrar, they were doing curbside voting during that time. That those people also be added into that. Now that would have to be covered from the general fund, and that's the number that we have in there. It's about $64,811 from the general fund that wouldn't be CARES. But and what we looked to try to be fair with that wasn't a flat fee for anybody. So it was basically hours worked. So if you were a full-time employee, it was how many hours you worked during the time that the building was closed to the public. And if you were part-time, it was for those hours worked at $3.75 an hour. And that was a random number I picked, and you could certainly lower that or raise it or that type of thing. But it is a lot of hourly workers in that 64, and a lot of our salaried positions, but there are all those people that work salary that work out in the field maintaining all of the facilities and were out and about and weren't just sequestered away from the public like all the workers in the building were, whether it was my building or planning or anywhere else. So I thought it was a fair way to look at it if we we're going to do hazard pay, not just to look at the sheriff and fire and EMS, but to look at everybody else that was still out providing service to the county. So, any questions?
Questions from board members? Mr. Thomas?
I do have one, Mr. Cully. And you said people that were in the building weren't the same, but I know people in the county administrator's building were still seeing people during that time. Occasionally they were going up there. I know I had to go up there for a time, and they were actually cleaning. So, do we want to include those people? I mean, I would like to include those people.
Well, you can do it for everybody. I drew a demarc basically that those of us that worked inside the buildings, we had done all we could to protect them, mainly by locking the door, but then, you know, with our cleaning regimen and putting up safety barriers, most everybody that saw anybody at that, I mean, the commissioners, they were closed down. We were dealing with everybody on the phone. I mean, there may have been an occasional person that Beth saw, but most everybody was dropping everything in the drop box. I'm not downplaying the service those people gave us, but when you're going to start trying to do hazard pay and kind of equate it to the people like public safety,
yeah, but
that got to be kind of tough. So what we looked at internally was like the building was closed to the public. We were all working inside of a closed building. These people were all on the outside of a closed building. I'm not saying that something shouldn't be done maybe for everybody else, but I don't know that we could justify that with hazard pay. And I mean, that's a judgment call, but I really felt to be fair to the people that were out.
Yeah, and
be more exposed than those of us that would probably be more exposed in the grocery store than we would ever be inside of our little cocoon of a building.
Okay, I was just thinking, I saw people in your office there, and I was just thinking that was a little different. We should include them. We'll talk about that again later. So
maybe something later on, and I had that conversation as long but I just thought it was tough for hazard pay to just kind of say it was everybody.
Thank you.
I thought, I sat down with Mr. Cully and talked about this in detail. I thought this was an excellent idea, and it does afford all those folks on the front line to actually benefit from their due diligence in serving the community. I would take a motion to actually facilitate this first.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Thomas. Second. I got a second. Discussion, Mr. Underwood?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I agree with the motion. I just think we should, rather than $3.75, I'd like to move it at least to $4 an hour for hazard pay. It wouldn't be that much difference on the hourly rate.
I'm just making sure, because how does that work? I mean, I don't have a problem with that, just looking at where this comes from.
Right.
It's not all CARES money.
It's not all CARES. Right.
We may have some contingency money in CARES 1 and CARES 2 to up that number. And then obviously the rest for the people that are non-CARES would go up as well. If I had a little bit of time, I'd pull the spreadsheet up and make that work real quick and tell you what that would be.
It's like $50. It's 200 hours. No, it's 250 hours.
Yeah, well, see, fire and rescue is more because they work more hours, so.
It's a sliding
sort of scale. Anyway, if you want, give me, I got a computer, I can probably pull that spreadsheet
Mr.
up.
Cully, do you mind doing, we haven't, does anybody want to? Y'all want to talk about something else?
We don't have anything else to talk about.
No, this is the last item.
Is it?
What else do I have?
I'd like you to restate the motion before you vote on it.
I'm working on that, Mr. Emerson, you are exactly correct.
Actually,
Thank you.
I was trying to finish what you said, or I didn't finish what you said, to approve this as our first round of hazardous pay, so we can look at some other people.
Correct. And Mr. Underwood is just saying, rather than $3.75, he'd just like to go to $4. Mr. Cully used $3.75 to calculate this.
Go ahead and call for the vote.
I mean, can we
I'm
do,
good.
yeah, let's,
375?
yeah, let's do the 375 now, and let him come back and figure out what that extra quarter is.
Okay, the motion currently on the table is is the hazardous duty pay for employees not covered by CARES and coronavirus aid relief or an economic, security act of 375, and those covered by that would be 375. Mr. Cully.
Mr. Cully just said number.
Mr. Cully, and I think it's in the board, hold on a second, I know I read.
in the board packet.
It is in the board packet in the second paragraph, would receive an additional 375 per hour. No, I'm sorry, per hour. Per hour.
So you got a motion.
Are we clear? I'm just restating the motion because Mr. Emerson wanted to make sure we were clear.
I messed it up.
Yeah, we're gonna get to your part in a second.
We'll do it later. Right.
We're gonna have to come back because I don't know that we're gonna get there tonight.
Because.
Mrs. Long, if you'll restate the motion, I'll be glad to hear it. Or Mr. Thomas.
Well, I just wondered if it would be cleaner to say we approve the use of $64,811.25 from the fiscal year 2020-2021 unassigned general fund for hazard pay for designated employees not eligible under the CARES Act.
I will add the total of $64,811.25 to my motion from the general fund.
And who made the second? Was it Nancy?
Yeah.
So will you amend your motion to that same language?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Are we?
All right,
Jeff.
I have it if you want the number. You ready? All right, the CARES number for the 135 employees would go to 209,401. And the non-CARES for the 59 non-CARES employees would be 69,132 for a total of 278,533. So the CARES was 196, so from 196 to 209, I think I can find that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
So you've left it at 375?
Yes.
Wonderful.
That motion is passed. We are now to the informational items. Mr. Cully. I see we're looking for a work. October's going to be for a month it only had one board meeting. We're rapidly approaching. Rapidly approaching 3. The work session in October for continued Ladysmith service area sewer discussion. Well, we have to do the first phase, but I guess the timing of the second phase, Mr. Cully, is, does that really need to be, is it imperative?
I think part of it, you know, we could make a few changes to the pump station at Vdot from a staff level and from regular repair and maintenance funds. But we budgeted money to finance work at South River Pump Station, but we didn't budget enough for what the work that needs to be done there. But the issue with South River is we're headed toward being pretty much out of capacity. So I think the reason for the work session was requested. We need to just look at all of it because ultimately we've got to look at what we're going to do on the interceptor line to get all of that out of the Vdot pump station and out of Carmel Church and directly to the plant with the growth that we're experiencing that's coming out of Pendleton, which is going right straight to Vdot.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to see all that and the sooner so we can start planning. I mean, you're still going to talk in years of development. And with interest rates at where they are, it's not a bad time to look at what we're going to do on that. But
yeah. And they're moving dirt on Durrett for the 55 and over.
Right, and that goes in South
Yeah.
River.
That was the next, yeah, that was another project. And then there's
Yeah.
another one we got. But,
Yeah, right.
but the choice was 800,000 now and then 13 million later?
And
Or
Mr.
do the
Schiebel's,
13 million now?
there was, I thought the number was 17, but
Okay,
that.
17.
But Mr. Schiebel's working with another engineer that we work with that's working on some tighter numbers for that. They'd just done a big interceptor, I think, in another county, maybe Hanover, and the price per foot's different.
less?
So, yeah, so I think we'll have some tighter numbers than that before we would go to financing. But I think the work session would try to get an understanding of all that and figure out what way we wanted to go. But, I mean, certainly if you want to do it in November, but then you start running into
Thanksgiving,
Christmas, a retreat with the school board, there's other things.
Is it a whole work session? With the choices, 800 or finance 17 million, right? Isn't that really the choice? Do we do the whole 17 million now? Is that what you want to bite off that and say, okay, that's what we're going to do?
I think that's what we wanted to hear the discussion on, is when that, and maybe it's not, maybe
it's a 5 o'clock.
board meeting and do 5 o'clock and then roll into 6 o'clock for the board meeting. Do we have any idea what the board agenda looks like for the 13th of October? I know that's
We do.
prognosticating.
No.
Is there anything we can abandon 13 October?
Well, we would certainly do that if we could.
Public hearing?
That's right.
We have staff meeting tomorrow, so we will look to remove anything that's not absolutely necessary.
Because it would help, because I just know that we're just rolling up meetings sort of nonstop, and they're just back to back to back.
Do 1 hour, that's good.
An hour should do it.
That's more than enough time.
We
Mr.
have
Fincham?
several zoning hearings, but most of them are text amendments, which won't take very long.
Or can be pushed off.
So.
Do you need them?
Well, yeah.
That's the problem.
Let me check with Lisa. Anything that we need, we can leave. If we haven't already advertised it, then we can move the others back.
Okay. I'm just trying to, because we're going to run into, if we start at 5 o'clock and we go to midnight, nobody's going to be happy.
We also, I know we have a couple of special exception reviews. If you're okay, we can just shift those a month.
That's fine.
Okay.
Those are generally easy unless they're contentious. I'll try to get with Mr. Cully and look at the agenda, and I'll let everybody know sort of where we're at.
All right, so we will need to remember when we have our meeting on the 6th with the schools, we're going to have to recess out of that
to the 13th at 5 o'clock.
Because you can't recess out of that to, because we've got a meeting in between.
Right.
So all of my staff, help me remember that are going to be there, Pam. We got to recess out of the school meeting into the 5 o'clock on the 13th.
So we're going to recess out of this meeting
No, not
to
this
the
one.
school board.
Now, the school board, we need to recess out of this one to the school board.
And then from the school board.
Because we haven't
recess.
advertised that either.
Okay, I thought that was advertised.
I don't think so. They just agreed to that date, and so it's a firm date. 6 o'clock, we're going to meet in the EOC.
Right.
On that. So recess tonight to the 6th, and then we'll remember to recess from there to 5 o'clock on the 13th. And that'll be subject to Joey being able to get the engineering firm here to discuss it. Hopefully we will be able to.
5 o'clock will be easier than 7 o'clock.
Right, they should be able to, unless they've got some other commitment somewhere else.
Well, we'll figure that out.
We'll let you know. I'll know by the 6th if we don't need to recess to that meeting.
Okay. I think that concludes our meeting for this evening. According to the agenda, the school board has confirmed the 6th. Mr. Forehand, closing board comments? Mr. Black?
No.
Mr. Underwood?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Long?
I would only suggest if anybody has specific questions for the school board, we try to get them down, and vice versa for the school board before the joint meeting.
We're gonna work on an agenda, Mr. Cully and I.
Work on some type of agenda for that, so we're ready to roll.
And we'll try to get it out a day or so early, so everybody's got a chance to look. Mr. Thomas, closing board comment? And I'll take a motion to adjourn. Or not to adjourn, to recess. You are correct, Mrs. Long. to the 6th at 6 o'clock in the EOC.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion from Mrs. Long, a second from Mr. Forehand. Correct, it'll be set up so that social distancing will be achieved. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries, we are done.